It started like any other late-night monologue, Jimmy Kimmel behind his desk, cracking jokes about the news of the day. But this time, the target of his biting wit was none other than Donald J. Trump, whose birthday celebration had just made headlines across the country. Trump, now in full campaign mode, had arranged what was being referred to in conservative media as a presidential-style birthday parade, a grand spectacle complete with red carpets, a full marching band, veteran color guards, oversized American flags, and an appearance from a children's choir flown in from Florida. Fox News ran it wall to wall. One anchor breathlessly described it as a moment of pure Americana. Another called it a moving tribute to the man many still consider their true president. But then came Jimmy Kimmel. And what he did wasn't just a roast, it was a demolition. On live TV, in front of millions of viewers, Kimmel pulled back the curtain on the event. With his signature mix of sarcasm and receipts, he began dissecting the so-called parade, revealing just how fabricated and desperate the whole thing truly was. First, the band. They weren't from the Marine Corps. They weren't even from a high school. They were an Elvis tribute band out of Reno, dressed in knockoff military uniforms. Kimmel quipped, showing side-by-side footage of the performers. The audience burst out laughing, but the punchline wasn't over. And the color guard? That's not a color guard. That's six guys from a golf course in Boca wearing matching polos and holding up umbrellas. The crowd roared. But then Jimmy dropped the real bombshell. Much of the footage broadcasted as live was actually pre-recorded, edited, and stitched together from three separate events, none of which had anything to do with Trump's birthday. Even the fireworks? Kimmel asked rhetorically, pointing to a clip Fox had shown. Those were stock footage from the 4th of July 2017. And how do we know that? Because if you zoom in, you can literally see the date on the banner in the background. Gasps from the audience. Then laughter. Then applause. The internet went wild. Clips of Kimmel's monologue hit Twitter and TikTok like a tsunami. Within an hour, the video had 5 million views on YouTube and was trending #1. Kimmel exposes Trump parade became the top phrase on Google. But behind the scenes, Trump was livid. Multiple sources from within Mar-a-Lago told political blogs and media outlets that the former president was screaming at the television, furiously pacing around his dining room in a red MAGA robe. One insider said he kept shouting, "This is treason. Treason on my birthday." And it didn't stop there. Trump immediately took to Truth Social in an all-caps rant. Kimmel is a loser. His ratings are terrible. No one watches. I had the greatest parade. Better than Biden, Obama, and Lincoln combined. He ended with his signature jab. Sad, but the damage had already been done. Kimmel's monologue wasn't just comedy. It had poked a gaping hole in the illusion Trump had carefully crafted. And while the former president's loyal base doubled down, the rest of America watched in stunned amusement. Even conservative figures couldn't ignore it. Some Fox personalities began walking back their earlier praise of the parade. Tucker Carlson, during a podcast appearance, laughed awkwardly and said, "Well, it was a bit theatrical." Meanwhile, memes flooded every corner of the internet. One viral post featured a photoshopped image of Trump in a sparkly marching band uniform holding a baton, with the caption, "Greatest parade in history, just ask him." But this wasn't just an internet laugh fest. There were political consequences too. Opposition candidates seized the opportunity to mock Trump's apparent obsession with grandiosity. Nikki Haley tweeted, "We need real leadership, not birthday cosplay." Ron DeSantis' campaign released an ad showing footage of the so-called parade over somber music, concluding with the line, "America deserves better." Even Biden's team couldn't resist. In a bold move, they posted side-by-side videos. One of Biden at a veterans memorial service, and the other of Trump waving from a gold golf cart as confetti cannons fired in slow motion. The caption? One honors the country, one honors himself. But as Kimmel's moment gained steam, the story became less about the birthday and more about Trump's unraveling reaction. Insiders leaked that he demanded legal action against ABC for defamation, though there was no viable claim. He also reportedly instructed his aides to find something on Kimmel that they could leak to tabloids. Kimmel humiliated him in front of the country, one former White House aide said, and nothing enrages Trump more than public humiliation. And then, in the most bizarre twist yet, Trump announced a second, bigger and better parade to be held the following weekend in Palm Beach, featuring real horses, a float modeled after Mount Rushmore with his face added, and a scheduled flyover by a local skydiving group. It was labeled Birthday Parade 2.0, Make America Celebrate Again, but even his loyalists weren't convinced. This feels like overcompensation, one conservative commentator admitted. He's trying too hard to pretend like the first one wasn't a disaster. Meanwhile, Kimmel, cool as ever, kept the pressure on. The following night, he opened his show holding a gold-plated kazoo and said, "Breaking news. I've been asked to lead Trump's next parade, but only if I get to wear the glitter sash that says Truth Destroyer." The audience erupted again. At this point, it wasn't just a late-night gag. It had become a cultural moment, one where comedy, politics, and ego collided in spectacular fashion. And if Trump thought the backlash would die down, he was sorely mistaken. The morning after Kimmel's viral takedown, headlines dominated the digital world. Every major outlet picked it up. CNN ran a segment titled, "Birthday Blunder. Trump's Parade Mocked Coast to Coast." MSNBC followed suit with "Jimmy Kimmel Fact Checks Trump's Fantasy Parade." And it's brutal. But over at Fox News, things were a bit tense. Producers scrambled. Some segments that had initially celebrated the birthday event were quietly pulled from their YouTube channels. Rumors spread that executives were furious, not because they were duped, but because they had been made to look like willing participants in a hoax. Behind closed doors, pressure mounted on Trump to let the story die down. But Trump? He only doubled down. Inside sources claimed he had staff working around the clock to verify the legitimacy of the parade elements. One aide was reportedly assigned to call every band in the tri-state area to get statements confirming they were invited, even though no one cared. Trump also demanded an internal investigation into who leaked the original birthday parade plan to Kimmel's team, convinced, somehow, that there was a mole within Mar-a-Lago. "Find the traitor," he allegedly yelled. "They're working with Kimmel." And as if things weren't bizarre enough, Trump took it upon himself to release his own documentary about the birthday parade. Titled Patriot Birthday, a celebration of leadership, the 11-minute video was uploaded to Rumble, complete with dramatic orchestral music, slow-motion shots of Trump waving, and narration from an anonymous voice actor who sounded suspiciously like a cross between Ben Shapiro and Gilbert Gottfried. The comments were disabled. Critics roasted the film, pointing out that much of the footage was clearly recycled from old campaign events. One particularly infamous clip showed a bald eagle superimposed behind Trump, which turned out to be CGI. The original version of that clip had been traced back to a Russian stock video website. Despite all this, Trump's base rallied. "MAGA loves a good circus," tweeted one pundit. Right-wing influencers on X began trending hashtags like #Kimmelis and #TrumpBirthdayTruth. Several conspiracy-themed TikTokers theorized that Kimmel was part of a deep-state Hollywood plot to interfere with the election by humiliating Trump on a symbolic day. But while the digital world descended into chaos, Kimmel remained calm and undefeated. Every night, he carved out 5 to 10 minutes to keep roasting the situation. He brought out child actors dressed as marching band members. He showed parody parade footage edited with circus music. At one point, he even joked, "We're going to reenact Trump's birthday parade, but with actual clowns this time." Which honestly isn't that different. The ratings skyrocketed. ABC confirmed Kimmel's week had drawn the highest numbers in over 2 years. The segment on the Trump parade became the most watched late night YouTube clip of the year. Meanwhile, Trump's team, now clearly grasping at straws, tried to reframe the story as an example of leftist bullying. A PAC funded ad aired in multiple red states, showing Kimmel's face overlaid with sinister music and quotes like, "He laughs at you. He laughs at America." But the ad backfired. Even some conservative viewers found it ridiculous. Commentator Anna Navarro summed it up bluntly on The View: "Trump is out here fighting with a late night comedian while the rest of the country is trying to survive inflation, gun violence, and climate change. This man wants to run the free world, and he's beefing about birthday parades." But even as media coverage moved on to new controversies, Trump couldn't let it go. He launched a new website, TrumpBirthdayTruth.com, featuring a collection of testimonials from loyal supporters describing the parade as majestic, emotional, and a God-inspired spectacle. The site also sold commemorative t-shirts, mugs, and, no joke, birthday parade NFTs. Jimmy Kimmel roasted the site immediately. "You know what's more embarrassing than a fake parade? Selling digital pictures of your fake parade for $99 a pop. At this point, even Fire Festival looks more organized." As the parade fiasco turned into a full-blown chapter in Trump's 2025 campaign narrative, the question became, why did this matter so much to him? Was it pride? Ego? Or simply that he couldn't tolerate being the butt of the national joke? One former White House staffer answered bluntly, "Trump doesn't care if something is true. He cares how it looks." And Kimmel made him look small. That's his kryptonite. And that, perhaps, explains the unrelenting obsession. To Trump, this wasn't just about a comedian's joke or an exaggerated celebration. It was about control, about image, about being perceived as powerful and adored, even when reality says otherwise. Because if there's one thing Trump fears more than anything, it's being laughed at. Not by the elites, not even by his enemies, but by America. And with one 10-minute monologue, Jimmy Kimmel managed to do what years of journalism, satire, and political investigation had only scratched at. He made Trump the punchline of his own fantasy. By the time the second weekend rolled around, the story had evolved far beyond a simple spat between Trump and Jimmy Kimmel. It had become a litmus test for loyalty, for common sense, for political opportunism, and not everyone in Trump's orbit was thrilled about that. Inside the GOP, the temperature was rising. Privately, several aides, staffers, and even current Republican senators admitted that Trump's obsession with the birthday parade affair, as it was mockingly dubbed by the press, was turning into an uncontrollable wildfire. They were already preparing for the 2026 midterms, and now every news cycle was being consumed by a humiliating, absurd story that refused to go away. One staffer close to Senator Josh Hawley was overheard telling a reporter at a Capitol Hill cafe, "The base might love it, but independents are asking, 'What the hell is this? We're trying to sell a platform.'" Instead, Trump's selling a parade fantasy. Behind the scenes, GOP strategists warned lawmakers not to comment publicly on the issue. Mitch McConnell's office issued a strict "no remarks on the Kimmel incident" directive. Even Kevin McCarthy, usually a staunch Trump defender, sidestepped the media when asked about it, muttering something about not seeing the full clip. But silence from leadership didn't mean the problem was going away. Trump's Truth Social page became a wall of fury. He began posting hourly, sometimes even more frequently. Each post came with its own unique blend of all caps, misused punctuation, and unverified claims. One post screamed, "Kimmel will pay. Lawsuit imminent. Defamation is real." My parade was historic. Another read, "Biden couldn't get 10 people to clap at a funeral." My parade had thousands, maybe millions. Fact checkers swiftly debunked every number he cited, pointing out that there were no known public permits issued for any kind of parade, and satellite imagery from the date showed, well, nothing. And yet, Trump persisted, even escalated. He reportedly ordered members of his inner circle, including Jason Miller, Steve Bannon, and even his own sons, to begin publicly defending the birthday event as a real celebration of American pride. Donald Trump Jr. took to Twitter with a bizarre thread claiming he had photographic evidence of the parade. The photos he shared were later revealed to be from a 2019 4th of July event in Iowa. Eric Trump followed up with a video of himself walking down a suburban street holding balloons and yelling USA repeatedly. The video was widely mocked and remixed with circus music. Meanwhile, former Vice President Mike Pence distanced himself subtly. In a speech at a fundraiser in Indiana, Pence remarked, "We live in serious times, and the American people deserve serious leadership, not distractions." Although he didn't mention Trump directly, the implication was clear. And that single sentence became the most quoted political remark of the week, praised by moderates, ridiculed by MAGA hardliners. Inside Trump's team, tensions flared. Reports emerged that campaign advisor Susie Wiles had tried to gently suggest Trump stop addressing the issue. Her idea? Pivot the narrative, move on to economic policy or border security. Trump, in response, allegedly shouted, "No, we stay on this. We expose Kimmel. We show the country what a liar looks like." The irony, of course, was palpable. Public opinion began to fracture. Polls conducted by Quinnipiac and YouGov showed a sharp dip in Trump's trustworthiness score, not because of any new policy position or legal scandal, but because of the parade debacle. 38% of independent voters said the incident made them less confident in Trump's grasp of reality. Even some MAGA-friendly influencers started showing hesitation. Candace Owens tweeted, "I supported Trump for years. But the parade meltdown is just sad. We've got bigger battles to fight." This sparked a furious backlash from Trump diehards. One post on a MAGA subreddit read, "If you're not defending Trump's birthday, you're no patriot." Kimmel is an enemy of the state. It wasn't just political, though. The culture war dimension exploded. Right-wing YouTubers began producing highly produced conspiracy videos, alleging that Kimmel had coordinated the takedown with deep state actors to undermine masculine leadership. One video, titled "Birthdaygate: The Clown Coup Against America," reached nearly 2 million views in a week. The video falsely claimed Kimmel had ties to George Soros and that the birthday parade never actually happened because Antifa infiltrated it and canceled it at the last second. Comments were filled with chants of "We want the truth" and "Bring back Trump's birthday." Meanwhile, on the other side of the aisle, liberal comedians were in heaven. Seth Meyers joked, "At this point, Trump's not running for president, he's running for birthday king." Trevor Noah, now back on late night temporarily, launched a recurring segment called Parade Watch, in which he tracked new Trump posts about the saga. But none of this stopped Trump. In fact, he escalated further. In a rally held in Texas, he played clips from the original Kimmel monologue on a giant screen, pausing to interject live commentary. "See that? That's disinformation. That's what they do. But we know the truth. I had a parade. I saw IT, I lived IT." The crowd? Mixed reactions. Some cheered. Others looked confused. One woman told a reporter, "I don't care about the parade, honestly. I want to know what he's doing for inflation. And there it was, the underlying crack in the facade. For years, Trump had been able to ride out scandals, gaffes, and media fights with bravado and deflection. But this time, something felt different. The fixation was too absurd. The target, a late night comedian, too insignificant in the grand scheme. The insistence on proving a fantasy real, too jarring for many middle ground voters. Some analysts described it as the shark jump moment of 2025. Columnist Barry Weiss wrote, "The Kimmel fiasco marks a shift, not just because Trump embarrassed himself, but because his reaction laid bare his need for adoration over substance. This isn't a political figure. It's a performer who forgot when to exit the stage." In conservative media, a quiet civil war began. Some outlets continued parroting Trump's narrative. Others started hinting, gently, that perhaps it was time for new leadership. Rupert Murdoch's empire, particularly the Wall Street Journal, published an op-ed titled "A Parade to Nowhere," when ego overshadows leadership. Though it never named Trump directly, readers got the message loud and clear. And yet, Trump remained defiant. In his final Truth Social post of the week, he wrote, "The parade was beautiful. Kimmel is a liar. America sees eye to eye will never back down." As the third week approached, one thing became abundantly clear to political observers. This wasn't just about a birthday anymore. It was about Trump's unwillingness to move on, his insistence on rewriting reality, and the deep fear that maybe, just maybe, he was finally losing control, not just of the media narrative, but of the party he once dominated. As the dust began to settle, at least on the surface, and the country turned its attention toward other pressing issues, one fact remained. Donald Trump's obsession with the Jimmy Kimmel birthday parade segment hadn't just damaged him politically. It had become a lasting emblem of his unraveling grip on reality, power, and public credibility.